We're excited to be back for our second in the series of Empowering Stories That Heal. Today, Reverend Cummings, Dr. Lewis Thornton, and Dr. Schaefer will support Dr. Katrina Wyche as she tells a portion of her story.
Healed with scars. Today we're going to hear from Katrina, who's going to share her story about being kidnapped at a young age. But she was found, and she has healed, and she continues to heal. But you're going to hear the impact of how tragedies carry on in our lives and how we carry that with us until we realize that we're not healed and we need to heal. You're going to gain some insight into how to process that and what you might need to do in order to gain the healing that you need in your life. As Katrina shares, she put it in a way of saying she's lived through her lifetime experiences, but they have led her to her hallmark moments. So listen to her story, reflect, maybe gain some insight into how you too can be healed with scars.
When you think about hurts in your life, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is the hurts that I'm going to speak for myself. The hurts that I have experienced from just multiple directions, whether or not it was from individuals or from different situations. One of the biggest hurts that I had in my life was dealing with the fact that when I was younger, I was kidnapped and never truly understanding what transpired to lead up to that particular incident, and then struggled with why the person who did that never received any in my mind, discipline, if you will, like they didn't get into any type of legal trouble or anything like that from that situation. So that, to me, that was a hurt, especially as I got older and, thinking about, trying to develop relationships with family members and not knowing who to trust and why this even occurred.
I know you've done a lot of writing and researching on how people, including yourself, but how people come through trauma with resilience and strength. And I'm wondering, as you begin to tell your story, where some of those threads are, where you connect the suffering that you went through to how you tapped into sources of strength and resilience.
So when I think about overcoming that particular time frame, it was truly a process. Years of being able to kind of find people that I knew or that I could connect with and trust. But I had a hard time trusting people after that incident, as you can imagine, because it wasn't like it was a stranger that kidnapped me. It was somebody that was within the family. And during that time of being away, it was not like going to camp. It was, there was a lot of abuse that took place, mental, physical abuse that took place, and emotional abuse that took place. So just as a young girl, and then becoming a mother, that also impacted how I interacted or allowed people to interact with my children. I don't think I really truly got over that until I was probably in my mid-30s is when I finally got over that. And I was able to, because I never allowed my children to go over anyone's house to stay overnight. they couldn't go anywhere without me. I don't care if it was a family, a friend, I had to be there, just because of that, that hurt, or that fear. So some of the things that I did to kind of help myself get over that, one, I had to really take an opportunity to speak to myself, speak my own affirmations to myself about different things. One of the pivotal moments in my life that I can distinctly remember as I was overcoming this particular trauma was after my divorce. And my son was probably like 10 and my daughter was 4 at that time. I had always bathed a certain way because this was the way that I was told and taught to bathe when I was kidnapped. And in that it was, I couldn't take a shower because I wasn't good enough for a shower. And I couldn't take a bath because I was too dirty to sit in a tub. So I just can only let the water run down and wash myself or cleanse myself that way in a tub. And that was something that stuck with me. And those words that were said to me stuck with me for many years. This happened when I was 5 or 6 years old. So that stuck with me for many years until I got into my 30s. And I can remember that one day I just kind of like, I said, no, I am enough. I am good enough for a shower. And when I felt that water run on me for the first time, in a shower format for the first time, it was the most freeing experience that I had ever had. Tears just flowed because it was like it was that first opportunity of freedom for me, mentally and physically, freedom for me, because I had held on so much to the hurt, the anger, and allowed what I was told then about me to be a part of me for so long that I couldn't be me because I didn't know who I was. So for me, really beginning to look at what were my blessings that I had before me. So what's that gratitude that I have? How can I find blessings and goodness in everything around me? So I really started looking at, finding a silver lining in everything, showing gratitude for things that I had and that I was encountering. And then I had to, in that moment with the shower, that was that moment for me to begin to kind of like really begin to come into my being with my thoughts. What am I thinking? Why am I thinking this way? Or and this is all in hindsight because at that time I had no idea the process I was going through, but it allowed me to kind of like reconcile all the thoughts that I had. While I didn't know them all, or I couldn't really embrace them all at that moment of time because it was overwhelming. I remember after I got out the shower that day, I think it was probably during the same time frame that we had a church conference, or maybe church was just open for prayer or something. But I knew I hightailed it right to church as soon as I got out the shower and found myself on that altar. But that gave me that opportunity to really begin to reconcile my thoughts that I had, and to come to myself and say, what is this? Why am I feeling this way? While I couldn't truly at that moment in time own my feelings, because owning my feelings meant that I had to face it. And that was a difficult process to really begin to face, what I was feeling and why I was feeling it. So that took me a while to really begin to own up to my feelings, as to what I was feeling. But when I finally did come to that point of saying, okay, these are the feelings that I'm having. I am upset. I still am harboring unforgiveness in my heart. I am still, dealing with some anxiety over, the things that have transpired to me. I'm still, dealing with, some of the things that were said to me. So I'm still having these self-esteem issues. So all of this stuff that was still coming to me, I had to begin to really reconcile those thoughts and own the thoughts, own the feelings that I was having, and saying, you know what, it's okay to have these feelings, because for so long as a mother, as an African American woman, you know, hearing in my family, you know, you can't really show your emotions to people. You know, you definitely can't let your children see you emotional. They should never see you cry. And here I am. I became a mother when I was a teen, I'm 19, and you know, and never had opportunity to be alone. So when was I going to be able to cry? When was I going to be able to have my own feelings and be able to own up to them? So it took me a while to kind of get through that, to really begin to own my feelings and how I felt. But I got through it, you know, journaling, talking to people, prayer, it helped me get through that particular piece of things. Um, and then just having that opportunity to just that breathe and welcome the new things that was coming my way. You know, allowing my new beginnings to really come forward, and me to see like, hey, wait a minute, you a little smart here, girl. What else do you want to do with yourself? You know, you are pretty, you know, honey, you're gonna be okay, you know. So I had to like really begin to work through those things and welcome that into my life and own it and feel it, because I didn't feel it before. I was going through every aspect of my life trying to please other people to win that approval, instead of really seeing that it already lied inside of me and not externally.
How did that impact your relationship with your children? Because it sounds like you were starting to pass on some of the things that you were holding onto how you were raising your kids. And then you had that moment of revelation. You had that shower that made the difference, that cleansed it. How did that change what you did with your children, how you talked to your children? Did you feel like you had put any of that on them and now you were freeing them as well?
I honestly feel like I did. I put a lot of that on my children, because of my fears. I put a lot of it on them. And I see it more impacting my son than it impacted my daughter. And the reason why I see it as impacted my son more is because he dealt with it the longest, of the two. And him and I, we have a really strange bond between the two of us. What I feel, he feels. What he feels, I feel. And it's just kind of like this strange connection that I can say at any given moment. And just like him, any given moment, something's going on with you, and I want to know why. What's going on? And I can seriously feel it. I can sense it. You don't want to talk about it right now, but you're going to talk about it because I know what's going on. So a lot of those feelings and emotions that I had, I think that it impacted him in a way. I strongly believe that there's things that we pass down, you know, genetically to our children. And one of those things that I feel like I passed down to my son, but I'm trying very hard not to take that on, you know, as a guilt, but just something to do better. But I feel like I passed along to him along the way anxiety and depression, because of what I was dealing with and how I operated with him. He struggled, you know, throughout his life with anxiety and depression, along the way, until we kind of gotten to a good point. He didn't know why he was struggling with those things. He didn't know why he didn't really trust a lot of people or really want to go around a lot of people, or he can kind of like sense things that was happening with other people. That very high spirit of discernment, which is a spiritual gift right there. Is discernment is a spiritual gift. Not saying that is a curse or anything, but just the way that that he operated within his gift, was a little different than what I feel like he should have been operating in it, with through the spirit. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But I think that it allowed my son and I to have a stronger bond and relationship between the two of us because of that, because of what I, went through and what he went through with me, and learning and growing. My daughter, amazing best friend to me, because she's seen me go through a lot of things. While she doesn't necessarily remember those things, because by the time she was of age to kind of, oh, okay, what's going on with you, mom? I was, already over a lot of that. But some of I do think that I still have some of those kinds of anxieties about being in certain places, going certain places, or with people that I really don't know. That still does come out and peek its head from time to time. I can't say that I'm like 100% over that. Even though she's 20, I'm still like, who are you going with? I need their social security number, I need their license plates, I need everything about them. Well, mom, you don't know them. I know. That's why I need this information. So something happens, I know where to get you. But I'm learning to pull that back, as she's getting to be a young woman out here, experiencing the world and, gaining friends. I'm not going to be able to know all of her friends. I mean, I can't go to college with her and say, hey, who's your friend right there? Like that's not possible. So it kind of impacts our relationship a little bit that way. But at the same time, we kind of talk through it and, okay, let me relax. I know it's okay, and kind of like allow her to be. So I think that experience that I had, it prohibited me, or should I say, it impacts me still with let go. Let go. Once they become of age, let go, and it's gonna be okay. My son is 26. I'm still like, where you going? Who you going with? And then I'm like, wait, step back. You don't even live with you anymore.
I like that you said
That's around
let
you.
go. But that's got to be hard for you. That's got to be difficult for you, and it's probably even difficult for them, even though they're not admitting it. That there's a little discomfort for them as well, I suspect. Did you ever seek professional counseling with this?
I did. I went to professional counseling several times over the course of the years. I don't think the first time that I received professional counseling for the situation was when I was in my 20s, after my son was born, and I went to professional counseling for it. Younger, my family, was of the mindset that, we sweep it under the rug and never really happened, kind of thing. Knowing that it happened, it was gone for a whole year. Like, how does this not, be something that we talk about or really deal with? But it was one of those things in my family where it was swept up under the rug. People knew about it, but just didn't talk about it. And if it was talked about, it was very likely, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But I went when I was in my 20s, and then again a couple of years later, just kind of, in increments. I went until I was really ready to deal with it head on. And I think that I dealt with it head on is when I really dealt with it head on. I felt like I had no choice at that point in time. And it was a lot going on. My son and our relationship was kind of really rocky, and he was dealing with his own issues, mental health issues, and going to counseling for that. My daughter was, dealing with some of her own issues. So it was like we were in family therapy. Then it was like, okay, I still need to deal with this because, I'm beginning to see that a lot of what I'm dealing with is impacting them. Yeah, so I did. I went to seek professional counseling several times.
You've talked a lot about different generational patterns, and I'm curious as to your thoughts now, looking back. What are some of the things that you have already done and the things that you're looking to do to deal with breaking those generational patterns?
Some of the things that I have done to break some of those generational patterns is, one, first and foremost, is saying counseling is okay. It's okay to go seek professional help and therapy when you need it. And it's okay to talk about issues when you have to talk about them, when you need to discuss them. That was one of the things that I know that I kind of received a lot of pushback from my family, is that I allowed my children to tell me how they felt. You don't like something, tell me. You don't want to do something, tell me. Let's have a discussion about it. Now, how you say it, we may have to have a follow-up discussion about, but it's okay for you to tell me how you feel. And that was not something that was appreciated in my family. To be able to speak your mind, to say, how you feel or what you need, was not something that that was acceptable. But I did allow my children to tell me that. So that is one way that it kind of broke some of the generational trauma or curses that we have in our family, is being able to just talk and then let me come back and apologize, because apologizing is not something that we do either. We'll hurt you and we'll pretend like it never happened. And it's no, we have to talk about this. You have to apologize to me, or I need to apologize to you for doing something that I should not have done. So those are three things that I think are some of the biggest ways that I began to help break some of those generational curses in my family. Along with, just saying, if you are going to therapy and you need help and it's beyond a conversation, you may need some medication for, to get you balanced, that's okay too. And knowing that that's okay, and feeling it's okay. We've also, visited those things too.
Where would you say you are now in reclaiming what that trauma stole from you?
Girl, I got that back. And no longer has me. I will say that, I have it, I feel like I have myself, you know what I mean? Like I'm no longer bound to what that trauma stole from me, which is, my self-respect, my dignity, my self-esteem. I feel like I have those things back. Am I gonna say it's an easy day every day? Every day is not an easy day, because it's a process. There may be one day that I'm like, oh my goodness, like I forgot this. Oh my gosh, now I'm like the worst person in the world because I forgot to prepare for this particular meeting or what have you. But oh, girl, it's okay. Just pick up and keep it moving. Tomorrow's another day. Or, oh man, I should have known X, Y, and Z. But it's okay. I'm not expected to know everything. I'm not a walking dictionary or an encyclopedia. It's okay. So it's just some of those kinds of things I kind of, sometimes I still have to remind myself of. But at the end of the day, I feel like, I have overcome, that trauma. Although it's still a work in progress, but I feel like I've overcome it.
So would you say that you have healed, or I know you reclaimed what was stolen from you, you've reclaimed it. So would you say that you're healed, or you're saying the healing process is a lifelong process?
I am saying that I am healed with scars. I still have that scar. I still see it. Sometimes it might be a little sensitive, but I am healed. And the best way that makes me think about that is every time, I don't know, hopefully I'm not doing a little bit TMI, but I had a bilateral mastectomy. And whenever I see my scars in the mirror, I remember, I'm healed. I got these scars, they're still visible, but I'm healed. Every now and then they may be a little sensitive, but I'm healed. that happened, years ago, but I'm healed. I still have scars. So that's the same way that I kind of think about traumas. You know what I mean? Once we have overcome them and we have healed from them, sometimes it takes a while for us to get there, but I'm healed. I still got scars, but I'm healed. I never say I'm healed without scars, because any moment now that scar can come up and we got to deal with it. So I'm healed with scars.
I like that. Healed with scars. Wow.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
a powerful imagery. That you can still see the scars. Sometimes the scars are still sensitive, but you healed.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like that.
And when you say that, I think about the scars that we all have.
Mhm.
When you see the scar, you remember what happened, but you know that you've healed from what you've been through.
Exactly. And I think, and okay, now hopefully I'm not going on a tangent with this, but I also think about that when I think about forgiveness too, right? Like people say, well, forgive them or forgive me for X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, I forgive you. But then something will reoccur, and it's like, see, that right there is what I was talking about then. Well, I thought you forgave me for it. I did. But it don't mean that I have to forget. It doesn't mean that I have to forget the things that was transpired. I can forgive you. I can move on from it, but I don't have to forget what happened. I think that there's a certain level of healing that comes from, remembering, but also saying that I'm okay in this space, because at the end of the day, really the forgiveness is not for the other person taking care of us, right? It's like you walking around, like right now, my phone is connected into my laptop charging up, right? So I'm walking around, I'm forgiving this person or not walking in forgiveness of this person, but we're still tied, right? My phone don't care nothing about what's going on my computer. It's not even thinking about my computer right now. And if I disconnect it, I'm free. It's free to go do whatever it's going to go do. And that's the same thing when it comes down to healing and forgiveness. I feel like is that, we can be in a situation, I can forgive you, I can see you, I could be around you, but I don't have to deal with you like that. And I'm okay. And we should be okay to be in the same space. And that's one of the things that I had to remind myself when I forgave the people that kidnapped me, was that I could forgive you. Luckily, I don't have to be in their space. When I was in their space before I was totally healed from this, I felt it all over again in my body. The anxiety, the fear, everything just instantly rushed back throughout my entire body. And it was like, I can't do this. I can't be around this individual, because while they may not have been the person who did it, they were there. They were a part of it to me. But over some time, over some years, I kind of, got over it and was able to be in the same space. And, one of the ladies, she said, hey, why don't you come over to my house and you can let your son play with my son? I said, no, thank you, we good. But I can still be in your space, right here in the midst of everybody else. I don't have to put myself in that same position, right? That's going to cause me that anxiety, that's going to cause me to relive anything. I don't know. I think that it also, depends upon you understanding and knowing limitations and boundaries.
Yeah, talk some more about that idea of boundaries. I think that's a key part of healing. And I'm wondering about what you would advise others in terms of establishing those boundaries.
Ooh, I think establishing boundaries is, I hate to say it this way, but I feel like it's like an individual thing, right? Because only you know truly what your limits are. You can only go so far into being, Kitty is so cute. You can only go so far into being in the same environment or a space with someone else right before you feel like your boundaries have been crossed. But I feel like boundaries are important, because if we don't set boundaries, then we can find ourselves in that same position that we were in before, or maybe sometimes worse, because I know I've been in positions where I should have really set boundaries early on in situations, and because I knew it wasn't the best situation, and I didn't, and I found myself in a bad position, now needing to clean up a mess. But boundaries are important because it keeps you in a place of safety, right? It keeps you in a place of comfort, um, and I think that, we have to have people respect our boundaries, and sometimes when people don't respect your boundaries, you have to be okay with saying, I can't be around you because you can't respect my boundaries. And I have done a lot of people like that, with saying, you know what, I I can't be around you. You can't respect my boundaries. You can't respect me. I can't interact with you anymore, not on this level.
Do you think that that early experience of trauma affected how you set boundaries?
I think it did. I think it did. At one point in time in my life, I had so many boundaries that nobody could get near me at all, right? So it was like, because my walls, all of my walls were up. But then I got to a point where it was like just certain individuals, I'll let all my walls down, and I didn't set boundaries, which was bad. So I was like on both extreme ends of the spectrum. And I had to find that balance of, no, you have to set clear boundaries up front with some people, not just with some people, with everybody. And then, whether or not you want to move back a little or tighten it up a little bit more, you can do that. But you have to set those boundaries up front with everybody, because a lot of that is a part of knowing and respecting yourself. And if you don't do that, then you're gonna, it's kind of like that old adage of, if you don't know what you're if you don't know what you're going for, you will fall for anything. It's kind of like that same thing. Like, if you don't set those boundaries, then you allow any and everything to happen to you, and then now you're trying to reclaim things. And I know I was horrible at setting boundaries at first, because I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be liked and loved so much by other people that it was like, I'll do whatever you want me to do because I need to be loved. I need to be liked, and not realizing that I'm putting myself in a bad position for what.
How is your relationship with your sister? How has that been impacted? You said both of you, it happened to both of you.
Yeah.
Did you all walk through or talk through the healing process, or did it make you closer, or how did that impact your all's relationship, and how does it impact it now, or does it?
So I will honestly say, try not to cry. I would honestly say that it had a great impact on our relationship. We went through this experience together, and while we were going through it together, we stuck to each other like thick as thieves. We were my best friend, you my best friend, like we just was, joined to one another. But because I felt like I had to protect her. Although she was my older sister, I felt like I had to protect her because I don't know, I think it was just because of everything was already coming at me. So I just had to make sure that she didn't get any of it. She didn't experience what I experienced. But we both experienced some things together. So we did have some time as an adult to kind of talk through some things that transpired, or talk about the experience, because it was like, let me back up a little bit. Growing up after the kidnap, our relationship with each other, while I still had that whole need to protect her and I, we were like butting heads. So we couldn't necessarily be around each other for longer than 24 hours. So one of us will stay with one parent, and the other will stay with the other parent. Because my parents were never married. So, so we lived a life of, flip-flopping between households and that kind of thing. Anytime we were together over the 24 hours, it was a brutal fight, like literally, brutal fights. So that was our compromising to ourselves as to how we can get through life. But at the same time, as long as we're not in each other's space, I could talk to my sister every day on the phone. We're best friends. I protect her. Oh, she messing with you? I'm gonna go get her for you. That's the kind of relationship that we had. And we still have that kind of relationship. The reason why it kind of brings tears to my eyes is because when I think about our relationship and how far we have come, we have a really tight relationship. However, we both know our boundaries. And that's, I know I can remember one day that we really had our come to Jesus moment in our relationship was we both were going through well, I had already gone through my divorce a year before she did. She was still going through hers, and we took our children to COSI. And we were talking about, like what is this between us? How come we have this, weird relationship? And while we never really got to the bottom of why that division was there, what we did come to realize is that, okay, our communication styles are totally different. However, because our communication styles are different, this is the way that we need to operate with one another. So we came up with our agreements, and we still go by those agreements. And that was over 20 years ago that we, had a conversation, or not 20, 15 years ago that we had a conversation. But now we're still close. It's funny because the other day I texted her, I was like, who's your best friend? She's like, what? I said, who is your best friend? And she's like, that's a trick question. I said, no trick question. Who is your best friend? So she said, you. So she said, I was her best friend and her daughter. I was like, okay, that's the right answer. And she's like, well, who's your best friend? I said, you and my daughter. But we still know that we can't be, we got limited time only, and then we go our own ways. But we could talk to each other every day. We work together on different projects and that kind of thing. So yeah, but we have a pretty good relationship, but we've learned to set those boundaries between one another. We did talk about the situation, and we have talked about it and talked about writing a book about it, or maybe we need to do a Lifetime movie about it. But we have, really talked about the situation and kind of gotten to some thoughts of some agreements about, okay, well, whenever you're struggling with it, let's have a conversation. I will honestly say that I may have talked to my father about it one time in my, since this entire thing happened. And I've talked to my mom maybe once or twice about it. Because it's just really difficult. I found that it's difficult for my parents to talk about it. More so for my mother to talk about it than it is for my father to talk about it. Because my mom, she just had no idea, no clue as to things that transpired or how everything even transpired. But we have talked about it.
So was your relationship with your sister, did it change after that, or were you all always like that?
From what I remember, prior to the kidnapping, we had a close relationship. My sister was always kind of like my best friend. We had a really close relationship, not a lot of fighting or anything like that. I don't remember my mom or anybody telling us about, the fact that we always fought, but we didn't really fight a lot until afterwards. And I think that it was just, there are several things that contributed to that, I will honestly say. The first piece is that I think that we already had anger built up from the experience. And then the second part of it is that I have a huge family. And a lot of people in my family, when we were younger, used to pit us against each other because they knew the fiery spirit that I had and the fiery spirit that she had. So they would like to see us kind of bump heads and go at each other. So people would set things up. And then I think that by people setting things up, it caused us a lot of times to have this distrust and discord among one another all the way up into our teenage years. And it just kind of, I think that it just kind of snowballed from there. But once we got old enough to say, wait, let's take a step back. What's going on here? Why are we even like this? Like, I want to be that, that sister relationship where like, oh girl, like in the movies, you know what I mean? Like I live in the movies. So my son tell me I need to get out the movies, but I'm like, everything is a Hallmark movie to me. So I live in the movies. But that's the kind of relationship I want to have. Like, oh girl, me and my sisters, we're going to go do this. And my sisters, like, that's always the relationship that I would love to have, but that's not our reality. And we couldn't figure out why that's not our reality as to, why we don't have that kind of relationship. And I
do you think that those are anyone's reality? Do you really?
Yeah, I know that everybody's going to have conflict. Like, don't get me wrong, everybody's going to have conflict. Two people together is going to be conflict. One person going to have conflict with yourself. Like, there's always going to be conflict, right? But I think that the difference comes with, that the relationship, that bond. Like, I know people who have sisters and they're always together with their sisters, doing different things. Maybe not like, as you're older, you in your careers kind of thing,
Right.
but they have like really close relationships where it's like, oh, me and my sister, we're going out on vacation together. No, that can never be our reality. We cannot go on vacation together because 3 hours into it, we're arguing. Like, we cannot go on vacation together. And it's not just like the normal, like, okay, you got on my nerves, you got on mine, and we go our own ways. No, it's like a bad situation. So, but I think that, happy families still exist. And, I've seen it. I think maybe I'm still in my Hallmark movie. I don't know.
I have this really bad theory. A former boss told me when I told her that all families are dysfunctional, and that she argued with me that her family wasn't dysfunctional. Now I know your family; they're dysfunctional. But it seems like it's normal for your family because it's how you grew up, and I guess that I'm thinking that, and maybe I'm just not. Maybe that's how I've dealt with my own reality. That while Hallmark movies, soap operas, relationships, they don't exist. That they're entertainment.
You're crushing my world now, Naya.
I'm sorry. That they really don't exist in that we really have to understand that. We just have to understand that. That's kind of my theory, but that's become my reality. So,
Yeah, okay, so that's the third time I heard that this week. We're only on Tuesday. So I think I need to like take that into consideration.
It sounded like we're talking about how generational traumas, in how we heal as individuals, and also that our relationships are in the process of healing also. So that while I guess my thinking might be that as families, different families are and different configurations within families are likely at different places in the healing process. Some aren't in any place at all in the healing process. But I'm wondering, Katrina, as you've talked about it, it sounds like every relationship in your life has been impacted by this very early trauma. And I'm wondering, we're getting close to the end of our time together, but I'm in this session, but I'm wondering if you have something that we haven't asked, or have anything additional to talk about in terms of that expanding the healing beyond yourself into healing within relationships?
I think that when you think about healing within relationships, a part of it is still starting with the individual. So it still had to start with me. While I have my pie in the sky, thoughts and my dream of things being like Hallmark movies. I know that it's not like a Hallmark movie in reality, and that it would never be a Hallmark movie, but that's the way that I can kind of keep and make sense of the world. Because it's only two types of movies in my head: Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies. And if you watch Lifetime, those are never a happy ending movie on Lifetime that they show. But Hallmark, you always have like this nice, everybody is out in sunsets and, riding off on, white horses or what have you.
Right.
But so for me, that's how I view like the relationships, right? So either my relationship is going to have that Hallmark ending, which is what I would like to go for, that we fuss, we fight, we know that this horrible thing has existed, and yet we can come back together and say, you know what, I'm sorry too. Okay, let's love each other, hug and kiss, and move on with our lives, right? We know that this exists, but we don't have to allow it to govern our life. Versus when I think about the Lifetime movies, they always start off, oh, we're hugging, we're kissing, we're great, happy family, and then something happens and nobody gets over it, and trauma after trauma after trauma is in a Lifetime movie, where there's no true reconciliation at the end of that movie. But that's not how I want my life to continue to be. I feel like the early part of my life has always been that Lifetime movie. And now I'm ready for my Hallmark movie, where, things are wonderful. Knowing and understanding that there's going to be conflict, knowing and understanding that there's going to be some dysfunction, but how can we function within this dysfunction? And I think a lot of that is being able to own up to the things that you have encountered, the things that you bring to the table. How are you showing up in these relationships? Makes a huge difference. And what do you do when you see, you know what, I'm not showing up as my best? Now, how can I make that right? How can I reconcile that? And being able to truly do that, and have it be done in a way where everyone is okay with it. Now, will everyone always be okay with it? I don't think so. But at the same time, we can at least attempt to try, if we're in a position within ourselves as an individual to be okay with doing that. Because there may be some relationships you're like, you know what, I just can't step over there. For me personally, I just can't step over there. I have a couple like that in my life. So what I have taken to myself is that, you know what, since I know I can't do that step, I can do the step, I can do the work right here, and I can be okay with not being able to go over there and not allowing that to hinder me. And I think that kind of goes back to your earlier question, Dr. Karen, is setting those boundaries, for yourself as well as for other people around you.
So we live right there between Hallmark and Lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about the different endings and the realities of the movies till you said that.
Yeah.
But I think our realities are we have Lifetime moments in our Hallmark movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we really want we want to end with Hallmark, but our life is really a lifetime experience striving for Hallmark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, I love the way you said that, Reverend Karen. Reverend Karen. Reverend Vanessa, I love how you said that. That was, I love how you said that.
Yeah.
Kind of we're struggling in the sense between Hallmark and Lifetime.
Yeah.
And Katrina, I really like that you distinguished, and like Vanessa, I'm like that you distinguish between Lifetime and Hallmark, because I'm like, I would have put them in the same boat. I would have said that they show the same type of movies. Yeah, so, okay. So thank you for distinguishing those for me. Thank you.
I am a lifetime, well, not lifetime anymore. I used to be a lifetime junkie, and then I had to stop watching Lifetime because I felt like that was like putting things in my brain that I didn't necessarily want in my head. So I became a Hallmark junkie, and it was like, ooh, like I was just sit all day on a Saturday or Sunday, just like watch all the Lifetime and Hallmark movies that they show day after day, or hour after hour. But then I had to like really begin to realize, like, this is what life is. This is what life is, but which life do you want? Because I can see both of those kind of playing out for real in someone's life. And it's like, whose life do you want? I don't want nobody else's life but my own. Why be a carbon copy of somebody else? And I can be the one and only original. And just kind of like combine my experiences and come up with, what works best for me. And, so that's what I kind of strive for now, like when I think about overcoming the traumas and, in my life, and continuing to grow and learn and heal. Because, I feel like you can heal, but it's always a process to overcome.
Got one question, and you might have answered it at the beginning and I missed it, but I know that people will want to know, and I would want to know, how old were you when you were kidnapped?
I was 5 when I was kidnapped, 5 going into 6. So it was right before my 5th birthday that I was kidnapped, and right after my 6th birthday is when I was found. I'm not going to say returned home, because we were not returned home. We were left abandoned down in Louisiana.
Wow. Okay. But look where you are now.
Look where I am. Yeah.
You have overcome.
I have overcome. And I love police officers because of that. I'm not afraid of police officers, because they were the ones that came into that abandoned house and it got my sister and I.
What a blessing. And by and large, you're okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Healed with my scars, but I'm okay.
That's it. You had a lifetime, but now you're in your Hallmark moment.
Yes, ma'am. I had a lifetime moment now in my Hallmark movie.
That's right. You had a lifetime moment in your Hallmark movie. That's right. But that lifetime experience allowed you to get to Hallmark.
It did. It certainly did.
Yeah.
Just so that our viewers know, this is not a sponsored video.
Yeah, really. My Lifetime or Hallmark.
Although my sister-in-law did work for and retire from Hallmark, as did her father before her. So maybe we can get a deal on this one.
That's right. We'll be like, which one's going to pay the most? We'll strive to get there.
We're trying to get there. We'll make it work. You want the Lifetime story, or do you want the Hallmark version?
You know what? That's it. That's it. We're going to call it a life mark.
A life mark.
Because we have risen from our scars.
Oh, yes. I love that. Life mark.
Life mark, because you said you're healed with scars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your life mark right there.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
You have been so open, and this has just been, when I see you, I don't see where you've been. I see who you are.
Mm.
And so that shows that you've come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're inspiring so many other people because of what you've been through. And so you show us.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you show us that there is hope. There is life afterward, that you can heal. So that's a blessing. So thank you so much for your openness and your sharing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you all.
Thank you.
Boundaries. Thank you, Katrina, for sharing with us the importance of having boundaries in our lives, not only for ourselves, but for those who we are in relationships with. Whether those relationships be family relationships, friendships, or significant others. That the scars always remain, but that over time they become less and less of an irritant and less of a nuisance. That learning to set those boundaries, learning to deal with the scars, and that sometimes it creeps up why we have that scar. Sometimes it comes back to the forefront of our memory. And that's all part of our healing process and moving us towards that hallmark ending that we all want in our lives. Thank you, Katrina, for sharing your story. Next month, Dr. Karen Schaefer is going to share her healing story.
We hope that these stories that heal will be a source of strength and healing for you. Next month, I'll be telling a portion of my story. We look forward to bringing those who are following these stories together in a webcast coming up in a few months. So watch this space for more information.